We open on a view of the ocean. Endless horizon spreads out across a turquoise sea, unbroken by the appearance of any island or continent. The air smells of salt, and you hear the sound of seagulls and waves crashing against the water. In the distance, you see something. A line sticking out of the blue. As you get closer, you see it is a tower. A massive tower, 1 mile across and several miles high, built out of thick gray stone and carved with runes. Dotted around the tower are large gaps, holes in which light can enter the tower, illuminating the small town within. Outside the tower is a collection of wooden docks floating in the waves. 300 years ago, the Great Flood destroyed this world. To save the mortal races from the torrent, the gods created the towers, massive stone buildings reaching to the heavens. The world outside the towers is dangerous, filled with pirates and monsters. This world is filled with darkness. What it needs is heroes. That is how I began a year-long 39-session epic homebrew campaign in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This is how I ended it. The camera zooms in on one of the towers. Noah Tower. One of the towers drew a guy it lit before the campaign began. Ren, Pace, and Lady Umbra walked down the stairs along the side of the tower. As they did, Pace stared down at the ruined buildings on the tower's ground floor. "What is this place?" she asked. "There used to be a community here. What happened?" "This tower is on the edge of a really rough patch of sea. About 10 years back, the ocean got real rough, and the base floor of the tower started flooding. They had to evacuate, but, they waited too long, and a lot of people didn't make it." "A shame," Lady Umbra said. As they reached the bottom of the tower, Rem put his hand on Pace's shoulder. "Are you okay with this?" he asked. "I mean, you two are nice together, but when she gets her memory back, it's fine. I mean, it isn't fine, but I love her, you know? And when you love someone, you have to do what's best for them, even if you hate it." "Yeah, I know." Ren and Lady Umbra walked out into the tower, which was still filled with shallow water. "This is where me and my sister grew up. It was a nice little town. I remember swimming with my sister outside in the summers. She was always a better swimmer than me. She was better than me in a lot of ways. I miss her." Lady Umbra stayed silent. "I remember the night they finally decided to evacuate. Like I said, they waited too long. The ship me and my sister were on capsized. I tried to swim out and save people, but I wasn't good enough. But Ripley was amazing. She was so strong, so selfless. Again and again, I watched her swim out and drag people back to the rescue ship. I wish I had been able to save her too. I know I should remember this, but I don't. I'm sorry." Ren pulled out the ring Sean took from Solanum's corpse. "Maybe this can help," he said. He crushed the ring in his hand. A ball of light floated out and into Lady Umbra. She closed her eyes and fell to her knees. "Ripley?" Ripley opened her eyes and looked up at Ren. Then she tackled him to the ground and hugged him. "Ren! Are you... I remember everything. I remember who I am now. I'm sorry I let you down. I'm sorry I couldn't... You could never let me down. Again and again you gave up everything for me. You kept fighting through pain and misery. You've been so very, very brave. I'm sorry you had to go through all that alone." "I mean, I wasn't alone. Not really." From the staircase, Pace watched the Martirassi's reunion. She smiled, turned, and began walking away. "Pace, where are you going?" "It's okay. You guys are family. I'll let you be alone." "What are you talking about? You're part of this too. I love you." "You do?" "Of course I do. You're amazing." Pace ran back and the trio hugged each other. Meanwhile, the rest of the party teleported into a hell dimension made of bone and fire. The spirits of Druagai, the Valentines, and Guy Fiery all sat around a campfire, scared and alone. "Prometheus, he's a monster," Tullius whispered. Armic tried to talk to them, but none of them would respond. They were too far gone. The trio walked through the hell cage, stealthing to avoid being noticed by Prometheus. Eventually, they came across a safe sitting on top of a pile of bones. Sean cracked it open to find vials of blood and a chunk of skin covered by a skull and crossbones tattoo. "I'm not evil, deep down," a deep voice said. The party turned to see Prometheus, not the TV celebrity chef version they'd faced in the past, a massive armored warrior covered in spikes and horns. Prometheus stood on the edge of a cliff, his back turned to the trio. The gods gave me magic so it could make the world a better place. But in their deviousness, they gave me too little. There was still starvation, still disease and war and strife. I asked them for more power, for the ability to make the world a paradise. And they laughed at me, called me a child. I didn't like that very much. He turned to face the party. If you're looking for the young king's blood, you won't find it in that safe. I have it right here, Prometheus said as he held out a bundle of vials. Not that it matters. I am not controlling him. My champion fights for me because he hates you, for every horrible thing you have done. He will not give up, not until I rise. We'll see about that. Iroh's familiar, the fox Maz, jumped up, bit into the vials, and teleported back to Iroh. Angered, Prometheus drew his sword and flew forward. He swung his blade at the party. The sword was stopped mid-air by a wall of light, a magic circle cast by Armik while Prometheus was monologuing. Your magic will not hold me back. The gods are strong, but their reach is limited here. He swung his sword down and the barrier cracked. Iroh yelled for Sean to grab the vials, except Sean didn't have a bag of holding anymore. So he did the next best thing. He grabbed one of the vials, uncapped it, and drank it. He then proceeded to drink all of the other vials. God, Sean was the weirdest fucking character. The sword slammed down and the barrier shattered. Prometheus raised his blade for another strike. He was stopped when a bolt of lightning hit him in the back. A momentary distraction from one of the souls trapped by Prometheus. The spirit of Captain Elbin Bootwater. Get out of here! I'll hold him off, Elbin shouted as he surrounded the dark god with a storm sphere. The wind and lightning couldn't have killed Prometheus. They were at best a distraction, but that's what the party needed. As they ran, Armik called out for rescue using a sending spell. The party disappeared in a flash of light as they were pulled out by Doofenshmirtz's extraplanar grabberinator. They crashed down onto the floor of the lab where the rest of the party was waiting. Are you okay? Sean winced. Ooh, I think I'm detecting poison again, he said. The ghosts of those trapped by Prometheus floated out of his stomach and stared at the party, before passing on to the afterlife. Elbin's spirit stayed for a bit longer to give a few parting words. You've all grown so much. As a captain, I couldn't be prouder, he said before passing on to the afterlife. Sean walked up to Ren, put his hand on his shoulder, and smiled. You're inside me now, he said. Ren was confused and horrified. So, did we win? Iroh smashed the vials of James's blood on the ground. Depends on what James does next. Do we have any idea where he's going? I do, Sean said as he pulled one of the empty vials out of his pocket. It was labeled with its original owner's name, Kit Maplecourt. Hey, remember when she went carousing and woke up having done a cult ritual for a sandwich? Turns out that had consequences. There is nothing more fun as a DM than when one of your players accidentally triggers a time bomb that you get to sit on for 30 sessions before having it blow up in their face. The party realized that if Prometheus had Kit's blood, then James knew where she was, knew where the medallion for Prosper Tower was. Armik sent out a frantic sending message to Kit. She responded with coordinates and the word help. The party rushed out to save her. They found the burnt remains of Gamble's ship, the lickety-split, floating near Hemlock. Kit was injured, but still alive. She explained that, for some reason, their sugar daddy had tried to kill her. He'd stolen the medallion and sailed away. They explained everything to her. Oh shit, the world is ending. I kinda feel bad for dishing you guys. This isn't your fight. You have no obligation to throw yourself into danger. True. But if we are all going to die, I guess it's better to die amongst friends. What have you been doing, anyway? Nothing much. I stole Gamble's ship after the ball, and have been carrying out some light piracy. Nothing too evil. But that jackass James just destroyed my ship, which is frustrating. And you know what the worst part is? I just got done naming it. Name? I named it after its wonderful captain, the drunken bitch. The party laughed. It was good to have Kit back, but things were down to the wire. They sailed to Prosper. James was waiting for them, stood outside the fountain, torch in hand. He tossed it aside and drew his sword. The fight was over quickly. A final boss he was not. He called the party vile pirate scum. Kit stabbed him in the stomach. He died. Iroh walked up to James's corpse and pulled out a diamond. He cast Revivify, the only Revivify he had the materials to cast. James gasped for air as Iroh grabbed him by the neck. "We are not your enemies," Iroh spat. "We have made mistakes, just as you have. We have done things we regret, just as you have. But we are not evil. Prometheus is. He is using you. You're a pawn. Your kingdom, all of your subjects, he's going to destroy it. What will the Royal Navy do when the ocean turns to fire?" "You're too late. I already lit the fire." Iroh let go of James and marched away. "I'm sorry," James mumbled. The party walked out to the opening in the tower's base and stared out at the horizon. In the distance, they saw a light coming from Crossroads Tower. A blinding light, brighter than the sun. Crossroads Tower exploded as a phoenix rose again. The end of the world had come. Armik prayed, but the gods didn't respond. The party decided there was only one option. Fight fire with fire, or in this case, evil with evil. Sean coughed up a chunk of skin covered by a pirate mark and taped it to Ripley's arm. Together, the party held out their arms. 7 pirate marks glowed as a storm formed over Prosper Tower. A massive bolt of lightning struck the water, and the Depths Queen burst out of the sea, revived. The marks faded away. "You are far from the people I would have liked to fight alongside. But, I suppose, desperation forces my hand as much as it has forced yours." The Depths Queen swam off. The party sailed after her. As they sailed, Sean pulled out his sword, Mother's Touch, and the 2 swords he'd taken from Jaguar. He held them together, and the blades fused together into a single, ultimate weapon. He still called it Mother's Touch. The sea boiled, and the air turned to smoke as Prometheus flew. He headed north, towards the floating city of Hemlock. A blast of light hit Prometheus in the wing, and he crashed into the water. He burst out a few moments later in his Titan form. A massive eyeball surrounded by wings stared at him. Perry hit Prometheus with every bit of power she had. It took only 3 swings for Prometheus to strike her down. A salvo of torpedoes struck Prometheus, fired from a golden submarine. The submarine, piloted by McGucket and Doofenshmirtz, transformed into a giant robot and punched Prometheus in the face. The old men hit Prometheus again and again, shaving away a decent chunk of his health, but were forced to eject when the robot began to melt. Rain fell as the Depths Queen rose from the water. She threw bolts of lightning, tidal waves, hurricane wind, every bit of storm magic she could muster. She hurt him, she did. But Odette wasn't strong enough to kill Prometheus in his risen form. Because, of course, that wouldn't have been a satisfying ending to the campaign. Prometheus arrived at Hemlock, wounded but still very dangerous. 7 adventurers stood on the edge of the docks, staring him down. A city full of people sat behind them. They would hold the line for as long as they could. I'm going to be honest with you all for a moment. I didn't take good notes when I was younger. A lot of this campaign story is just my memory, which is incomplete. I don't remember how exactly a lot of the fights went, so I fill in the gaps with what sounds cool. I embellish fights to make them sound cooler. I'm trying to capture the emotions and the triumph, not specific actions, which have been lost to time. So, if you'll permit me, I would like to embellish. Sean Stryker ran past Prometheus, slashing him across the stomach. His molten blood dripped into the water, each drop creating an explosion of steam. Kit's knife flew through the steam, hitting Prometheus in the eye. He roared in rage and threw a ball of fire at Kit Maplecourt, but she easily dodged out of the way. Pace flew around Prometheus, getting him potshots with her crossbow. As he tried to swat her down, a tidal wave slammed into him, summoned by Armik Coldstone. Tentacles burst out of the water. The tentacles of the Depths Queen. Still alive, but badly burned. Ren and Ripley Madarasi looked at each other. Ripley nodded and they charged in. As the Depths Queen held Prometheus down, the Madarasi stabbed their swords into his chest. Prometheus screamed before exploding into a massive ball of fire. When the smoke cleared, the Madarasis were fine, teleported to safety by Maz. Prometheus was gone, finally dead, mere hours after being freed. The party caught their breath as the Depths Queen crawled onto the dock, barely breathing. She and the party shared a knowing look. Her tentacles stabbed at them as they charged in to fight her. I said I didn't know how the fight with Prometheus went, and that's true, but I do know one detail from the final battle against the Depths Queen, because after the campaign ended, the server was abandoned. I played more games with my party, but those were new games with new characters on a different server. But I still have access to that campaign. It sits, frozen in time, the last messages we typed out left as a fossil. And from those messages, I can see how it ended. I can see that Sean dodged a bolt of lightning. I can see that Armik summoned his spirit guardians and the Pace fired a pair of crossbow bolts. I can see that the Depths Queen attacked the party with her tentacles, that she grabbed them and tried to crush them. And I can see the final turn of the campaign. I can see that Sean misty-stepped out of the Depths Queen's grasp, drew his sword, and sliced through the Depths Queen's tentacles. With one final stab, it plunged Mother's Touch into the Depths Queen's heart. Iroh set fire to the Depths Queen's body. The ashes blew away in the wind. Be at peace, Odette. Then the party heard an unholy screech as the sky split open. A dozen shadowy figures with masked faces stared down at the party. Armik bowed in reverence.
It seems the problem we were asked to assist with has sorted itself out. That makes things simpler.
The gods waved their hands, reviving Perry. She flew up and frantically tried to explain that none of it was her fault. One of the gods held up a finger, and Perry went silent. The gods looked down at the party.
Thank you for disposing of Prometheus.
That's it?
Excuse you?
We deal with your mess, we risk our lives fighting Prometheus, and all you have is a thank you and have a nice day? Iroh, don't say something you'll regret. Honestly, I'm a little sick of you guys. You took these people, Prometheus and Odette, and turned them into monsters. You used them as pawns in some game, destroyed the world the moment things got serious, and then just left? What the hell? Iroh, please.
Your anger is not misplaced. We made mistakes with this world. Although it is not completely true that we abandoned it. We left power in the hands of those with the courage to fight against evil, in the hands of men like your friend Armik.
Oh, jeez, thank you for saying that.
You have done us a great service. Perhaps a reward is deserved. We can undo the Great Flood, restore the world to what it once was. Or we can leave it as it is and give you what you need to rebuild. The choice is yours.
It didn't take the party long to decide. We open on a blue sky filled with fluffy clouds. A dragon and her children come into view as they go for their morning flight. The camera pans down and we see nature. Endless vibrant forests, restored by the gods. We cut between a few things. We see Doof and McGucket selling magic items from their truck. We see Teal and his family eating at a new restaurant opened by Alton. We see Nilo Chicane singing to an adoring crowd. We see Gale moving his mines to a new fortress. We see Perry watching from the white void, now decorated with a floating Employee of the Month plaque. And we see Silas Westbark visiting a prison, where his son, once a king, sits in chains. We cut to a small cottage. Pace stands there making breakfast, a ring on her finger. She's retired from adventuring and is happier than she's ever been before. Her wife, Ripley, calls her outside. She wants to say goodbye before the others leave. We cut to Armik Coldstone standing in front of a church, talking to a crowd. They listen, captivated, as he tells them the history of the world, of the monsters who heard it, and the heroes who fought them. He notices the time and runs off to meet with his friends. We cut to Iroh talking to a group of children in front of a forest, explaining survival skills to them. He's become an indispensable resource in recent months. No one knows more about nature than him. He enjoys teaching. It gives him a perfect opportunity to yell at people and tell them to be better. His class over, he meets up with the others. Ren Matarasi, Sean Stryker, and Kit Maplecourt sit in a cart full of supplies. They hug their friends and say goodbye. For now, but not for forever. The cart sets out, carrying 3 adventurers. There's a big world out there, full of treasure, full of adventure, and full of people who need help. They don't know what they'll find, but they know it will be wonderful. And that is how it ended.